Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to discuss sine function. Let me explain it graphically so that we can understand this definition. This is a typical graph of a sine function. Just by seeing the graph of the sine function, we can claim few properties. As you must have noticed that after a certain duration, this particular graph is repeating itself. Such kind of functions are called as periodic functions. And if we talk about domain and range of the function, we can give any value to x in sin x. That is why domain is minus infinity to plus infinity. Here you can see we can give unlimited values at x-axis to this function. But if we talk about the range, that is the value of y, you can notice here that range is always in between -1 and 1, irrespective of the values of x. That means range of sine function is -1 to +1. And that is because of these basic values of sine theta. From this we can see that maximum value is 1 and least is -1. That is why along y-axis you can see -1 to 1 limitation in this function. That is why the shape of graph of sine function is a wave-like graph which is never ending towards x-axis, but along y-axis it is always in between -1 and 1. Along y-axis, these oscillations ranges between -1 and 1. Now, if we talk about the repetition of the graph, it is because the sin x is a periodic function. A periodic function is a function which after a particular value of x, it starts repeating itself. Mathematically, it is represented as fx plus p is equal to fx. And for this, p is the period of that particular function. Because after that period, what we are again getting is the function only. Now, if we talk about sine function, that period after which it is repeating itself, you should notice from the graph also, it is 2 pi. Because if you notice, from 0 to 2 pi, it is taking a particular shape of wave, and after 2 pi, the wave repeats itself and it goes on after every particular gap of 2 pi. And it happens because after 2 pi, the values of sin x starts repeating. Have a look at the values. At 0 degree, we get the value 0. And after that, it takes different values. And it starts repeating its value after 2 pi. Also notice that for all multiples of pi, like pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, it is taking the value 0. And for odd multiples of pi by 2, like pi by 2, 3 pi by 2, etc., it is taking the value 1. Accordingly, the graph is taking the shape. For all odd multiples of pi by 2, it is taking the value 1. And for all negative odd multiples of pi by 2, it is taking the value -1. That is how the maxima and minima of this function is being decided. Here you can understand one more concept. For x is equal to pi by 2, the value of sine function is 1. But for x is equal to minus pi by 2, it is -1. We are getting these lower points because of negative values of sin x. We are getting exact negative values for the sine function, as sine pi by 2 is 1, so sine minus pi by 2 is -1. Sine 3 pi by 2 is 1, so sine minus 3 pi by 2 is -1. Why this is happening? Because sine function is an odd function. Now please recall the concept of odd function through this. If in fx we put minus x in place of x and we get the value minus fx, then that function is an odd function. That means we are getting the same value but the negative sign. And if replacing the value of x by minus x doesn't make any difference in the function, then it is an even function. So we discussed few properties of sine function, that it is an odd function, it is a periodic function, and also its range and domain. Now let's discuss these values in terms of quadrants. We know that sine is having positive values in first quadrant and second quadrant. That means till 180 degree it attains positive values. So that means in graph, if we want to show, then 0 to pi, it would be the first and second quadrant for sine x. And you can see in this section it is attaining positive values, and from pi to 2 pi it would be third and fourth quadrant because it is taking negative values. And then if we move further, then as per the quadrant, again it will enter to first quadrant and it will be taking positive value once again. This way this graph goes on. So from the given values, now we can draw the graph, and from the graph we can correlate the values. And also we can derive all the properties of sine x. Now let's discuss one more interesting concept of unit circle, through which we will see that why some values are considered to be positive and some values negative. See, this is the unit circle. That means its radius is 1. And in this we consider the right angle triangle to find out the values of tangents. So here you can see that the formula of sine x is equal to perpendicular upon hypotenuse. But hypotenuse we have considered 1 because every time hypotenuse is the radius of the circle, which is 1. So here you can see I am changing the position of G, and accordingly I have to change the position of H because it should be a right angle triangle. So that means according to the value of this perpendicular, sine x will change its value. As we move the points from H towards C, we can see that the length of the perpendicular is increasing. L is more than GH, IJ is more than KL, and CA is more than IJ. That is why from 0 to 90, the value of sine x increases from 0 to 1. And then in second quadrant, again it starts falling from 1 to 0 again, because as we move from C to E, again the length of perpendicular decreases. But it will not take negative value because perpendicular is still in positive y-axis direction. That is why in first and second quadrant it will remain positive. Then in third quadrant, again because radius is 1, perpendicular would be the deciding factor. But this time because we are in negative y-axis direction, so it will take negative values from 0 to -1. And then in fourth quadrant, again with minus value because of negative y-axis, it will take the values from -1 to 1 again, because again it is going to enter in first quadrant. This time also in fourth quadrant you can see the length of perpendicular is decreasing from D to F, but still the value of sine x is increasing because this time the values are negative, and lower the negative value, then higher will be the absolute value. That is why it increases from D to F. Similarly, you can derive the concept for all the tangents. with the help of unit circle, because once you know the concept, then you will simply be understanding the concept, and meanwhile you will learn in no time. I really hope this video was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.